Hello and welcome. I'm Allie Fuller, your host for today's Workday Chats. Workday recently launched our latest Real Rockstar video, which you can check out in the comments below. It's really exciting. But I'm even more excited to be joined by this Rockstar panel today to discuss what it takes to be a Rockstar business. And I can tell you firsthand, having worked with these folks, that they are true rock stars. So we're going to kick it off with some introductions. And I will say it first, because I know all of you, I can't bring myself to say first and last names and make it sound super formal. So I'll let you guys do that. But start by introducing yourself, share a little bit about your role at Workday. And we're going to start with you, Katherine.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Great to be here. So my name is Katherine Wilson. I lead the Workday Education Services business across EMEA and India. My role involves making strategic decisions to drive business growth, as well as building and developing teams of instructors to deliver an outstanding customer experience for the students who attend our classes. I'm also a site leader and a Workday community leader for my local office, and those additional responsibilities allow me to expand my reach to connect with other teams across Workday.
Well, you sound like you wear a few different hats, so a rock star indeed. Katie, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me, Katie Robb. I joined Workday this past January, and I'm on our Workday on Workday team, otherwise known as the WOW team, which I think is the greatest team name at Workday. But before I joined Workday, I've actually spent my whole career involved in the Workday ecosystem, starting as a consultant and then making my way to the customer side, and now just really excited to be on the team responsible for how we manage Workday and use Workday internally. So happy to be here.
Well, already off to a good start, a rock star even under a year. So appreciate it. Meredith, over to you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Allie. Hey, everyone. I'm Meredith Foster. I'm a customer-based account executive on the sales organization at Workday. I have been at Workday for 9 years. I can't believe it. It feels like it's been 5 minutes, but it flew by. So I've rocked a couple different jobs here. I started in solution consulting. So I was demoing the product, really fell in love with the technology through that, and then moved over to our People on Purpose team and had the great opportunity to work with our skills initiative, getting skills in Workday, rolling out the career hub, the gig economy, and then moved over to Karen Taylor's project team to introduce our Vibe Index to some of our customers in a pilot. So that was really neat. And all of that before I landed this great place in the Southeast selling into our customer base. So I absolutely love it here. Feel like it's still day one.
I've worked with Meredith in all of those roles she just described, and she did rock each one of them. So I can attest to that. And then last but certainly not least, Rafael, you want to take us home?
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Rafael Van Dyke, representing Workday Atlanta, along with Meredith, where I'm a senior manager of application development for the Workday student product, which is designed for the university administrator and the student experience. So we work with college and universities on their experience and making that seamless. Our development teams that we've recruited here in Atlanta support the financial aid pillar, alongside teams in Pleasanton. I've been at Workday 3.5 years, just like Meredith, just flown by. I've been in software development for a while, for the past 26 years, including time as a software engineer myself on the Microsoft stack, mostly C#, .NET, SQL Server backends. And prior to this, I was a dev manager for Paramount, which was Viacom CBS formerly, where we supported about 30 plus back-end office applications for the distribution side of the house. So great to be here.
Well, and it's been fun to see our student product go live with so many of our higher ed customers recently. And we know there are a lot of rock stars behind the scenes in higher ed as well. So, well, I know we're here to talk about rock stars, but I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about how rock stars like to have fun. So I am the host, I have the mic, so I get to do this to you guys. We're going to have a little fun together here before we get into the meat of it. So I'm going to start with, what is your favorite song to pump you up at work? Katie, starting with you.
Oh, this is a tough one. So let's see. My current band and song of the moment has been Jungle and their song Keep Moving. But I did see Bruce Springsteen at the Chase Center recently on his tour, so I would be remiss to not mention The Boss and Born to Run.
I heard that was a great concert.
It was amazing.
So lucky. Meredith, what about you?
Oh, that was really good, Katie. Yeah, so I guess what really gets me pumped up is Broken and Beautiful from the movie Ugly Dolls by Kelly Clarkson. there's just something about it that just gets me super jazzed up. I feel like it can get me out of any rut I'm in. You know, there's times in our lives that we all feel like we're completely broken, and it just reminds me that we're all going to be okay, and we're all beautiful in different ways. I love the line where she says, I never need you to lower the bar for me. I just think it like sticks with me. It makes me feel awesome going into the day, and know I can take on anything that faces me.
Music is always so helpful, whether in high moments, low moments. It's such a great tool. Rafael, what about you?
I have a long commute at work. I live about 50 minutes north of our office. I have several favorites. I could not pick one. I'm so sorry. Depends on the day. So the other day I was listening to Green Light by Pitbull and Flo Rida and Lunch Money. That one gets me pumped up pretty well. Some of my go-tos are Unstoppable by Sia, or New York State of Mind by Nas. And then thanks to a wonderful trip I had in India about a year and a half ago, I went for a wedding for one of my developers. I fell in love with Indian music. So my jam sometimes is the Kala Chasma by Ula.
I love that. I feel like art, music, it's such a great way to learn about a culture and people too. Yes. So I love those. Well, you guys are helping me build a playlist since I need some new songs here. So Katherine, do you want to take us home? What's the last one I should add to the list?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Some new names out there for me. So yeah, I think my choice would depend a little bit on what's going on. So if I'm trying to influence something, I might go with "It's My Life" by Bon Jovi. Facing a challenge, that might be something like "Fight Song" by Rachel Platt. And then if everything's going well, "The Life of Riley" by the Lightning Seeds, which kind of takes me back to my uni days, those times when we all have fun and not a care in the world. But I have to say, I don't tend to listen to music while I'm working than classical music, because I'd end up singing all day, which is not the most productive way to work, but still fun. So those are my ones.
Well, not that anybody asked mine, but I was thinking about "Eye of the Tiger." If anyone's heard that song, it always just gets you going, whether it's in sports or work. So it's always a fun sort of walk-on song too. All right, so fun questions over, although we're going to continue to have some fun as we talk through this. But really pivoting us to kind of the meat of the conversation here today. And again, thank you for joining us. So what has been your biggest Rockstar accomplishment in your career? And I know all of you, and you are you don't like to brag about yourself, so I'm going to force you to brag a little bit about your biggest Rockstar accomplishment here. Meredith, if you're comfortable, I'll start with you.
Oh, sure. Let's see. Well, I honestly think landing a job at Workday has been the biggest Rockstar moment of my career. And I know that sounds a bit cliche, but I have a little bit of a different background. Before coming to Workday, I actually taught special education to middle schoolers and high schoolers with behavior disorders. So to get into a company like Workday that saw me and valued me for my skill set, and saw the ability for me to be able to transfer those skills into a role in an organization as great as Workday is an awesome accomplishment. I'm grateful every day to be here, and that opportunity was given to me. And within 3 short years, I know this is nothing for you, Allie. You're always on stage, you carry yourself so well, but I was asked in my 3rd year at Workday to join Anil and Chano on the main stage of SKO to deliver our new corporate message for 15 minutes. So I'll never forget. I felt like I was a rock star. I was ready to dive out into the crowd like Bon Jovi. It was just this incredible feeling of accomplishment that I had made it and I had found my home. So just being here is definitely my best rock star moment.
Well, we're lucky to have you. And I loved how you started with your different roles and talking about skills. It's such a great way to develop yourself, but stay at a company you love, right? And be able to learn new things. So that's awesome. Rafael, you want to build on that? What's your greatest rockstar accomplishment?
I do. I definitely agree. Landing here at Workday is definitely a rock star moment. But I have to go back to the beginning of my career. My first programming gig was with a company called Definition 6, where I had the opportunity to build an intranet application. I should say rebuild one that was already existing. And it was using something called Tango, which hopefully none of you developers out there have ever heard of. I certainly hope not. It was old, it was antiquated, and it needed to get replaced. It had an access database. Those of you familiar with that know how terrible that is to run critical software off of that. And so it needed to be re-engineered. So I had the opportunity to do that. Back in the day, this is 1998. So I was using classic ASP, for those who know what that is. But along the way, I really learned some really important things and was able to get buy-in from stakeholders and get feedback on what the application actually needed, in addition to rebuilding what was already there. And so we did a gap analysis which included our CEO, who asked for some things to be added as well. And so it ended up being a really interesting and just really crucial product for that company to stabilize and improve the efficiency of their digital operations. And so a couple of years after that, I left the company. Years later, I went back for the CEO's retirement celebration, and it was a wonderful, great reunion. I was expecting that application to be gone and replaced with either .NET or something that, and to my surprise, it was still there after about 15 years. And they said, I said, well, have you at least upgraded it? No, we haven't changed a thing. And so that was my Rockstar moment. And when I knew that I could do things that mattered in the programming industry, and I really used that to build my career on. And I've certainly worked on larger products and projects and applications, and built some things that are maybe even more complex than that. But that time at D6 and that project will always be special to me, just because of what I learned and was able to build up.
Well, and I love that example because it sounds like that was sort of a Rockstar accomplishment for you, but also in doing it with the team, right? And collaborating and working across folks and listening, which we all like to win and lose together as a team. It's far more fun to do that. So love that example. Katherine, what about you?
I think for me, it's hard to kind of pick out one specific thing, but when I look back at my career so far, I think what really stands out is team building. So I was a consultant earlier in my career, and as part of that role, I implemented customers across the globe, which gave me a really great insight into different cultures, backgrounds, and the ways in which different people interact. And so now as a leader, I draw on the experience from those travels to bring people together, facilitate development, and drive the success. So like the others, landing the job here at Workday, I joined almost 12 years ago. And I became the first consulting manager here in EMEA shortly after joining. And that role really gave me the opportunity to lay the foundation for what that consulting organization looks like today, influence the career path of the individuals, and manage teams across the different product SKUs. And so as the team grew, so obviously did the number of managers. And many of the people that I hired are now successfully leading teams of their own. So I kind of seen that, to me, that's an awesome situation, and it's great to have had that influence across individual careers. I would say more recently, and if we want to go true Rockstar style, I was part of a team that won the Workday Talent Show, first one they had at the Altitude Conference. So that really does show you that anything's possible when you've got a great bunch of rock stars working together.
Well, you are better off on stage doing that than me. I have no good stage performances. So, but there's always something for everybody. Nobody wants me up on a talent show. So, but congratulations. That's awesome. We have some really talented workmates. So that says a lot. Katie, last but certainly not least, Rockstar accomplishment.
So to echo the responses before me as well, 100% landing the gig at Workday. I am just so thrilled to finally be part of this amazing group of folks. There's so many people that I've come across over my 10 years in the ecosystem that now are a ping away from me or just a meeting away. I call them all legends when I get on with them, and it's just been so rewarding to be part of this community. And further than that, having implemented, consulted, maintained the payroll absence and time tracking modules on the customer side for 10 years almost, to now be responsible for how Workday uses those modules, being at the forefront of innovation, because we obviously want to be the best users of our own product. It was described to me as I came in as drinking our own champagne, which I love because I've always been told that I'm like the biggest Workday Kool-Aid drinker, but now I can be the biggest Workday champagne drinker as well. But just thrilled to be part of this group and really consider it my dream job. So.
Well, I know many of you mentioned it, and have all of us having been at Workday, whether that be 1 year, 3 years, 12 years like myself, it is an incredible place to be, not only as a company, which it is, to work with folks like you, but our customers and many of our partners as well. So we include them in that family too. Well, I'm happy to toast a glass of champagne with you any day, Katie, since I know you're your first year. So Welcome to Workday. We can make that even more fun. All right, so we're on to our next question. You guys talked about your Rockstar accomplishments, and thank you for sharing. It's fun to hear all those different moments for you. You know, some from the start of your career, some current in the last year. And Katherine, I'm going to pick up on something that you actually touched on, which is really around teams and building teams. So you guys shared your Rockstar accomplishment. How do you really build Rockstar teams, and how can other people think about that and really take from anything you've learned in your career? And we're actually going to start with Rafael. We're going to go back around. So kick us off.
Absolutely. So I joined Workday 3.5 years ago. It was traditionally a sales and service office that was established there. And so this was actually the first time that Workday hired technical talent there. And so I was one of the first, what we call P&T, that stands for Product and Technology, Workday employees that was hired there. And so when I was hired, I was asked to build 2 dev teams from scratch. And so wonderful opportunity for me, definitely another rock star moment that I had the opportunity to have. And so I knew that in order for this team to be successful, I needed to hire the very best. And so this started for me by hiring a rock star at the start. And so we had someone who had interned with Workday twice and was currently at another company, and that we were trying to get back because in those 2 internships, she was absolutely terrific and perfect for our team. And we all knew that. And so that was my very first task, was to get her on board. And fortunately, I was able to be successful in that. And then what followed after that is for the rest of the staff, for me to ask one major question outside of the other interview questions I asked. And I asked, well, this person work well with my rock star that I had already hired? And if the answer wasn't absolutely, then I moved on to other candidates. And so I got the advice to not settle on anyone, to make sure that we built a great company. So we weren't just filling open recs just to fill them. We were building a culture. We were building an environment of future success, and we needed the best talent available. And so that's the approach we took. And I really feel that is important in building a rock star team. And so as I look back to then and see the amazing team that we have now here in Atlanta, the results have been just remarkable in my eyes. And I absolutely love the team that we built. Like every last one of them, those who are listening, you know that I love you and love what you do. And you are all rock stars. I want you all to know that. And it's been great for me, an honor for me to be able to have a team I can trust and truly connect with, and really authentically treat them like they are the rock stars that they are. It's a great experience.
Well, I love that. And if people don't know this, not only are we hiring Atlanta, which I know I actually am hiring Atlanta too. So if you know anybody out there, but that office has really grown to be, quite frankly, one of our largest offices for product and technology. I believe it's 4th or 5th at the moment. So just an incredible investment, Rafael, and it says a lot because it started with you, and I didn't know that. So thank you. But great talent, and people attract great talent and people. And so that magnet is really important. Katherine, I know you touched on building teams earlier, but do you want to expand on sort of how you think about building rockstar teams?
Yeah, for sure. And I would 100% agree with Rafael. I think, we all understand that individual experience can really vary greatly. And I think there's 2 key elements that I would always hone in on. One, as Rafael already mentioned, is hiring the right people, right? So not only do they have the right skills profile, but for me, it's also about a passion for the job that you need them to do. In training, we particularly see the people that have that passion for training are really the ones that are successful. Not only that, they're committed to the role, they bring ideas to the table. Katie mentioned innovation earlier on. That's a great place to be when you've got people that, have those ideas. And in that moment, they're keen to grow themselves, especially as the business evolves. And I think secondly, it's about the culture, and Rafael already mentioned this, bringing people on board, when we go through a recruiting process, and I've hired a lot of people into Workday, that's really important. It's not just about can they do the job, it's do they fit within the team? What do they bring to the table that's a little bit different? We like to embrace diversity, but we also want to make sure that the people we're bringing on board are going to connect with the people that are already there. When they do that, they build trust, they learn together, they collaborate better, they have fun, as we've already mentioned. And ultimately, I feel that genuinely means that they outperform the expectations that we have for them. So, when I think about team and then go back to that conference for Altitude, for example, we had a moment where, after COVID, everybody got together for the first time, and it was amazing to see that team connect in a moment. And for a lot of them, it was the first time they'd ever met face to face. So I think that for me is where you build in that team building at every step along the way, so that, when things go wrong or things go right, you've got that team around you, as you already said, Ali, win or lose, right? We're all in this together, and it's the team that really has that sense of purpose and achievement together.
Well, I like that. And this ties back to obviously where Meredith is today around VIBE, which you shared earlier, which is value, inclusion, belonging, and equity. And I know not only at Workday, but in many of our partners, customers, even communities at large, they value that too. But it really is a way to build high-performing teams, right? By building that belonging and bringing diverse perspectives to the table. So really love that. And I've seen that be successful with you, Katherine, and many other folks. Katie, anything on your side that you want to add about building Rockstar teams?
Yeah, so I was thinking as y'all were talking about a metaphor to tie it back to the Rockstar theme. So how interesting would it be really if you went to see a band and everybody sounded the same, or everybody played the same instrument? Like, not very interesting at all, and not probably a show you would go back to. So I do think the key is really to celebrate different styles of communication, diverse opinions, building those diverse teams. We all come from different backgrounds, whether professionally, personally, we're all going through different milestones and moments in our life that we bring to work. And just making sure that we're all inclusive, that we celebrate these differences and opinions and perspectives. I think it makes for one interesting show that people want to keep coming back to.
I love that. And especially, I mentioned I wasn't sort of a performer myself, but nobody wants me singing or playing a musical instrument, but I always appreciate those that can. Right, for that reason, because you just have different talents, and so bringing all that to bear is really nice. Meredith, do you want to take us home on this one? I know you've been a part of building some Rockstar teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so neat, as a side note, Katherine, just hearing your voice and the glow in your voice when you talk about the internal building up of your teams and seeing them be successful. I just think I think there's something really special about you see leaders that are building their teams in order to be other leaders. And it's completely selfless, and it's just neat to see your energy for that. But, in sales, we build different kinds of teams. We have a pursuit team. And as I was just listening to everyone answer, I was just thinking, everybody on the screen right now has been a part of a sales pursuit that I've been a part of, right? Everyone has a role in Workday that provides the team members that we need to win deals. And, I think that building teams with the great people that we have at Workday, bringing them all together, making sure that we have tons of preparation so that we can execute flawlessly is absolutely critical. I know the WOW team is huge for us. We bring the WOW team in a lot of our meetings because our customers want to know what we're doing with Workday. So it's such a special thing to have. They're always available to help us and help us sell the product. And I just think that, like we said, we win together, we win as a team. And at the end of the day, I think the most important thing we can do when we're building a team is to consistently express gratitude. Robb just did that, right, to his team. But the gratitude goes so long and so far and makes people want to work together again with you. So I love building sales teams. I think it's super fun.
Well, I know we have this phrase, one team, no limits, that we use, which I think really emphasizes that. And I think you're spot on, Meredith. It's so important to express gratitude and appreciation, and especially across functions, right? When you learn about what somebody's doing, you empathize with them. I mean, once you see what they go through, it's incredible. It takes all those folks to be able to make a result happen to some degree. So such a great point. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and ask you guys to be a little vulnerable with me. Excuse me, wrong word. So we're going to talk a little bit about challenges and how you tapped into that. So when you think about kind of challenges you face, and that could be personally, professionally, even at large, how do you tap into that inner rock star to get through that challenge? Katherine, you want to go first?
Sure. So I would say, from a Rockstar perspective, the instructors are always we might say, on the stage, when they teach. So imagine a moment where something goes wrong in a class. So the rock star in me there knows that while I'm not standing in front of the audience, they are. And I think there, we need to quickly assess the situation, understand what the impact might be, and then determine the best path to resolution. So I think my role in there is always about being supportive, staying calm, communicating, the plan, really in order to alleviate stress. Because, as I go back to that moment when I did the onstage performance at Workday Altitude, I can tell you that was out there as far as, a moment of stress. But at the same time, it was amazing, and the results we got from that, the reaction was great. And I think that's what I would always want for the instructors, that even if something goes wrong in a moment or they feel like there's a stressful situation, we have their back. And I think, not just from my point of view, but the other managers I work with, the other team members that we have, and ultimately, so the instructor can continue with their set, they're back in the class, we're back on track, students are, engaged, and everything can move forward and minimum disruption. So yeah, challenges often come up, but I think, surrounding ourselves with support and rock stars is definitely the way forward to make sure that even if something goes wrong, there's always a way forward, there's always a solution.
Well, and having been in the classes before with some of your instructors, I can say that the audience also wants them to do well and is supportive too, which is always great. So everyone wants everyone to get back on track. But well, that's awesome, Katherine. Thank you for sharing. Katie, over to you.
Yeah, I think I'll answer in 3 parts. So from the personal note, when tackling challenges or being faced with challenges, giving yourself grace and practicing gratitude just on a daily basis as we navigate professional and personal milestones and challenges. I think just grounding yourself in that as a daily practice. My consultant/product manager answer will be, when I came into product management from consulting, I had to really unlearn the learnings of, when you're a consultant, you got to just jump in and start solutioning. You're working against timelines, all these different stakeholders. You got to go live by a certain date, and you just got to jump in and start maybe configuring, designing, and getting things moving. But from the product manager perspective, I've kind of learned that it's more problem management. You really need to get to the bottom of what the problem is and what that means. It's just at a basic level. Why is this a problem? Why does this matter to our end user? Why does this matter to our stakeholders? What happens if we don't solve that problem? What are the workarounds / what are we going to lose out on if we don't go and fix this? Making sure you keep the end user at the forefront of that as well, and not just maybe tied up in some of the things that are easy to get tied up on in terms of like, well, we got to meet this deadline or we got to meet this initiative. Well, just keeping workmates or employees or those end users at the focus, and just making sure it maps back into what your broader roadmap within your organization, your team, your project is working towards. And then my rock star answer, so this will be number 3, is bear pose. You got to get up if you're going into a meeting or maybe a presentation at altitude or rising, and do that bear pose. So shout out to Ted Lasso for teaching me that one.
Well, that's why the songs you all touched on at the beginning are helpful, because they can be all of our pump up songs to get into your inner rock star. Well, and I love that. I know, Meredith, you agree in terms of kind of stepping back and getting that broader context sort of as you're going through things. And you've had a couple different roles too, Meredith, that have done that. You want to share your perspective and build off of what Katie talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. I hate challenges. They're so hard, but you feel such a great sense of accomplishment when you do get over the challenge and you work through it. I always try to start with zooming out, right? You try to see that whole picture, try to understand the basis of the problem, and always keep integrity at the forefront of the conversations. Easier said than done, right? Not to get mad and angry, but the more we step away, the more we look at the whole picture, the better the outcome is going to be. And I'll tell you, one of the very best leaders I've ever worked for is Zach Stafford. And he always says, do the right thing every single day and all will be okay. And it sticks with me. It's one of those things that in every challenge I'm in, I make sure that I'm doing what is right in my heart. And it kind of makes me think of my first career. So I said I was a special education teacher and worked with behavioral disorders. So every day was a challenge. I mean, every day, my entire goal was to help a child learn that did not want to learn. And I'll never forget the day we ate lunch in our classrooms every day because the kids weren't able to go out into the regular cafeteria. And I had a new student come to me from Russia, and he'd been with me for about 3 days, and just cleaning up like normal after lunch, and threw away a couple of scraps, threw away his tray that had a little bit of bread on it, a little bit of milk and an apple. half-eaten apple left and just tossed in the trash can. And immediately a switch went off and he went crazy. He was throwing chairs around. He's throwing the desk at me. He's screaming. And I finally got him calmed down. I was like, I don't know what the root of this problem is. And after we talked for about 30 minutes, he made it clear to me that he had just moved here, just been adopted, 13 years old. And for the first 13 years of his life, he lived without a home, without parents, without siblings. So was scrapping for every morsel of food that he had. And those are the things that I should have learned at the beginning. Those are the things that I should have understood. So I could have faced that challenge in a different way, because that understanding of what other people are dealing with really helps you have a better perspective and take some of the emotions out of the conversation, solve the problem, and make it a win-win in times of adversity. So that was one that I committed to myself. I said, when I face challenges, I am going to find out the root of the problem as fast as I can to avoid some of the escalations that could take place.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that, Meredith. And it's a good story for all of us to take to heart and to learn from as well. Rafael, what about you?
Thank you so much, Meredith. That's just a wonderful story. And shout out to Zach. We love Zach in Atlanta. He's exactly the way Meredith described. It's just that, just has that calm about him when you're around him that everything's going to be fine. So
you're so full of love this morning. I love it. It's just like, I gotta get some of your energy. We gotta work more together, Rafael. I love it.
I have a lot of love for these people. And hopefully it shows. I'm surprised I haven't cried on the video yet, actually. So,
we're not done yet.
There's still time.
I know we're not done. I know, but there's time. But I'm hoping to hold off here. But continuing where Katie left off with our Rockstar thing, when I think about facing challenges, I actually think about Diana Ross, who was just one of the greats out there. And a lot of you may know this story, but for those who don't, there was a time, I think it's 1983. I was 13 years old. Do the math there if you want. But she did a concert in Central Park with like over 800,000 people in attendance. And then suddenly, in the middle of her performance, it began to rain. Not just rain, but heavy rain. And there was harsh winds and there was even lightning. So it was pretty dangerous. And so her production crew was trying to get her off the stage so they could stop the concert. But to everyone's amazement, she stayed because she was concerned about the crowd and their safety. And so she stayed, tried to continue the show. She told them to remain with her, to remain calm, and stayed with them as long as she could. But the storm was just getting worse. And so it was obviously time to stop the concert. But before they stopped the concert, she vowed to return the next day and perform the concert again, and which she did. And I just think it's such a great example of two things: courage and just this servant leadership that she had. That she wanted. She was thinking about others before herself. And so, whenever I'm faced with challenges, whether it's an employee having an issue, or there's a team that's conflicting on how to face a challenge, or whatever it is, I do my best to remember those two aspects. Is really dive into servant leadership and just have the courage to think about them over me and do what's best for the team.
Well, it certainly sounds like not only do you believe that, but you put that into action based on what I've heard and seen here today. All right, we're going to speed it up with two questions here, and we're going to do a little bit more rapid fire. So be ready on your toes. Katie, I'm going to start with you. There's this thing called AI. I don't know, it doesn't get mentioned, every couple of weeks in the news if you follow Cycle by Workday. But jokes aside, obviously AI is not only a topic that people are talking about, but a really critical technology and set of capabilities that are going to take us into the future. So how do you think AI will rock the future of work? Rapid fire. Katie first.
Okay. So I will start us off with talking a little bit about what we're doing within WOW, but doing it quickly. So within WOW, we are working towards becoming a skills-based org. This is a journey that I know many companies out there are working towards as well. And through the power of AI and ML, we are just so excited about how the journey has evolved, starting with the Skills Cloud, moving into the Career Hub, which Meredith mentioned earlier. And now we're working on using the power of AI and ML to drive critical skills against job profiles in Workday. And where this is just really key is it's going to help with our workmate professional development. At the end of the day, at Workday, it's all about humans being at the center of our strategy. And by using these tools for workmates and us on a personal note to reach our greatest potential, I think that's what really excites me about how it'll rock the future of work here within Workday and WOW.
Yeah, it's been incredible to watch Workday move to a skills-based organization, but also many of our customers and partners too. And it's really making a difference for their workforce and how they strategically sort of develop their people. So excited about that. Meredith, your side, how will AI rock the future of work?
So I think it really is the future of work, right? We talk about it, we joke about it, but it really is the future of work. I mean, AI is taking away some of the mundane, time-consuming tasks that the human brain doesn't need to be spending its time on. And it allows us as humans to be more creative and more strategic and constantly thinking forward because we're not bogged down so much with the task that AI can facilitate for us.
You're spot on. And I know at Workday, our philosophy is really we have no interest in building AI for the sake of building AI. It's really about adding that value for our customers, for businesses, for people. So really important in terms of our investments to making sure that adds value. Rafi, you're on the engineering side, so your answer is going to have to be highly technical. In terms of sort of how you think AI is going to rock the future of work, I know you're really close to it, and student, you guys have been doing a lot. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's exciting for us from a engineering perspective. I mean, developers should be excited about just what Meredith talked about, just removing routine and mundane tasks. We have a lot of those as developers that we have to do, but it will be nice when we can have some tools based on AI that can take care of some of those things for us, so we can and what that does for us, it increases our productivity, it improves code quality, and we have less bugs because of it, and it will allow us to reduce a lot of security vulnerabilities automatically, which is a really big focus for P&T right now in Workday. And then that's going to give us time to focus on things like customer features and improving the design and performance tuning and just really being able to innovate by letting AI take care of some of that time consuming stuff that we honestly we don't like to have to waste time with. And so and Neil said it best, that AI is as important and just as disruptive as cloud software. And I truly believe that and those who embrace it will definitely be rocking the future of work, and those who don't, you're risking being left behind.
I think there are a number of good points you made in there, but a really important point that I know at Workday we spend a lot of time talking about, which is it's not about replacing the human. It's really about augmenting the human and putting them at the center. And so how do you give them the power capabilities to review, to approve, to assess where there's, exceptions, but very much keeping this human at the center of what we do, but then giving them time back to focus on the things that they uniquely are suited to do as well. So Katherine, do you want to
hopefully opening up the new areas that we haven't tapped yet either. I think that's the important thing as well.
Yeah, and Katie, this actually goes to your commentary about WOW, but even in our own IT team as well. We're looking at not only how we do that for customers in the product, but also how we do that as a company for our people, for productivity that ultimately, obviously, hopefully pays dividends to our customers as well. So love that you touched on sort of how we use it in our engineering practices too. And we're all learning, right? We're trying some of these things and learning from it and seeing where it's helpful and ultimately where it isn't. So I think that's incredible. Katherine, how do you think about AI in the future of work, especially in your area?
Well, I'd say with education hats on, there's lots of different ways in which we could incorporate that. So building on what the others have already said, like, taking away some of those admin tasks, making that more automated. We can tap into creating some of the content for the classes. We can look at different ways in which students can interact and also personalize the training experience. So as Katie said, and you've just touched on, right, not just in WOW, but how we do that for, when people are learning about how to use Workday. our external customers, our partners that are leveraging the classes. And then, there might also be additional insights in there, like how do we identify the students that maybe are struggling? How do we make learning a little bit more accessible, feedback in moment, and overall improve the productivity? And I think, you said this already, and this was my last point in here, AI ultimately is never going to replace that critical human element that you get with respect to training, that empathy for students, that kind of, connection with them when things maybe aren't going so well or they're struggling with learning something. But I think it's a great tool that we can incorporate into the business plan and see where it takes us.
Yeah, it's really important. It's fun to hear you say that in the context of your role and what you all see, because that human element is so important when it comes to our customers and our partners. It's something that stands out about Workday. And so it's important to keep. And so I mentioned I don't have any singing skills, musical skills. We know there are skills that it takes to be a true rockstar. But what I love about the rockstar campaigns and ads that Workday has is really that they're rock stars in business, right? Not just rock stars on stage. And they have their own unique skills, right? That aren't singing, that aren't playing the guitar. And so sort of to kind of wrap us up here in terms of the meat of it, what skills do you guys think it actually takes to be a rock star, but a rock star of business, not a rock star on stage? Meredith, I'll look to you first.
Rock star of business. I like that term. That's pretty fun. Well, I think we all know communication is key. We have to be able to communicate. I will always go back to integrity as a skill that's needed across the board professionally and personally. I'm very proud that Workday has that as a core value. I think it really says a lot about us and who we are as people, and probably why we have such great people at the organization. And I think being funny is important. Like, I think it's a skill that sometimes we forget that, yes, I'm selling software to CFOs and CHROs, but it's okay. They're human beings, and it's okay to be funny. So I always try to bring humor into the forefront of business. And I'm not sure if this is as much of a skill as it is a characteristic, but humility, I think, is really, really big. I think Anil's probably the best example of a humble person, obviously very successful, but he's always respected and treated all of us as though we were his peers on the C-suite. And that humility goes a long way in a leader, and it goes a long way in business, as we can tell. So I guess I would just say, like, to wrap it all up, is be humble, communicate well, communicate often, do the right thing every time, and make people laugh.
Well, and I like those because they're skills to be sort of a true rock star of business, but at any level. To your point, whether you're leading the company, you're first joining the company and starting your career, those are important throughout your entire career in every position that you're in. So really appreciate you sharing that. Rafael, what about you? What skills do you think it takes to be a true rock star of business?
First, I want to echo what Meredith said. Appreciate our senior leadership and how humble they are, and really how approachable they are. Like they, I can go up to any of them and they'll have a conversation with me, which is kind of uncommon for a big company like this. So, but when I think of rock stars in business or really anywhere, my thoughts turn to great leadership and not just those who are in management positions. You can be a leader in really any position that you're in. And there's two skills that come to mind when I think of that on a rockstar journey. And the first one was really pointed out to me by a mentor of mine here at Workday, is the ability to make tough decisions and important decisions correctly and quickly. And if you take a look at people that we look up to who are able to have a command of the room or a situation, they're able to have that ability. And so it's one thing that I always work on is, and there's a lot that goes into it. You have to have a vision, you have to have resolve, you have to have confidence in your domain that you're in, and wisdom and knowledge go with that. And so there's a lot of things that go into it, but if you can develop that skill, that's something that's going to really make you a rock star. And then speaking of mentors, I think the second skill, and maybe this is not a skill, but is being receptive to mentoring coaching. This is something that CEOs do all the time. They all, or I should say most of them, have a mentor that they rely upon for advice. And so if it's good enough for them, I think it's good enough for all of us to have.
It's a great point. And I always like to say, just because something was a strength of yours at a certain point in time doesn't mean it always is. Right. So you also need to maintain all the strengths you have, and even things that come easily to you or you're good at. And so the idea of getting that coaching, especially as your roles evolve, right? certain things are important in one role, the change in another. And so constantly sort of developing yourself and being self-aware, I think it's really important. Katherine, skills for a true rock star in business.
Definitely communication. I think, working in a global organization, for many students coming through our classes that where maybe English isn't their first language. And I think communication on any level, whether it's, peer to peer, up and down, an org, left and right, I think it's super important to make sure that those messages that we're sharing are received in the way that we wanted them to be received. I think, taking the time to talk, but also listen to people around us is also really a good way to build relationships and trust. I feel like them, if we don't take that time to take a step back and actually listen to somebody rather than just kind of keep talking at them, we don't learn as much as maybe we could do. So I think that's definitely something, I've learned over the years. And I think with that, knowing how to engage people, tap into their strengths, and wherever they are in the career, providing some focus for them of where we think they could go, or, tapping into those strengths and driving them forward, I think is super important. Meredith touched on this, and Rafael as well. It's important to have fun, and I think in a moment of lots going on, which is often the way Workday moves very fast. I think, it's good to know that there's times what everybody needs a break. Everybody needs to just take a step back. We might do a happy hour, we might have a silly quiz. It just gives people time, and I think when you facilitate that for somebody, and they know it's okay to take a moment, have a bit of fun, have a coffee break, I think that really does go a long way, in what we're trying to achieve. So. There's lots of things that I can talk into in here, but, I think those are just, and, the one thing I will also say from, as Rafael mentioned, coaching and mentoring, I've been lucky enough to have a mentor here at Workday, but I've also been lucky enough to have the opportunity to be a mentor for others. And, somebody that recently moved from my team into a different team actually said to me, can you become, can you stay being my mentor? I feel like you really ground me. This is really good for me. And it was a really nice moment there of connection of knowing what it means for someone to do that for them. And I know I've really appreciated that. So anytime I have the opportunity to do the same thing for others, I'm all for it.
It's a great point. And I think as we develop our own skills, really making sure we pay it forward and help other people develop those skills too. Not only Rockstar as a business do that, but Rockstars on stage do that as well. So thanks, Katherine. Katie, last but certainly not least, and I know you have a different a perspective to build on this, which I think is unique. I want to share some skills for Rockstar in business.
Yeah, so a quote comes to mind that I really try to lead each day with, and it's, to paraphrase Maya Angelou, people will forget what you did, but they will not forget how you made them feel. So above everything else we've talked about today, leading with kindness and empathy, tying it back maybe to the rock star metaphor, whether you're the lead singer or you're the roadie setting up the equipment, we're all in this together. So taking the time to build genuine relationships and leading with kindness, I think, is just very key to us growing together and succeeding with our teams.
It's such a great way to kind of round out this question because it's important what you do, but more importantly, how you do it. And with other people. And I think that's so great. All right. So we're coming to an end here. And to close this out, I can let us get away with that sort of one last fun Rockstar business question as well. And we're going to start with you, Rafael. But which actual Rockstar do you think the business world could take some cues from?
Well, I'm going to quote him to start. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. You know what the difference is. But that's from JayZ. He's one of my favorites. That's from Kanye's Diamonds from Sierra Leone, in case you're wondering. But not only is he a great artist and has just timeless songs, like I can go on and on, but he's made himself into an incredible business man, right? He has about close to 20 businesses that he has ownership in. He's got ownership in Uber. He's part of the New York, Jersey Nets, and he's got real estate, a clothing line, and so he has the distinction of being the first ever hip hop billionaire. And then in addition to that, he uses his platform to help others, including the last ever in our COVID-19 times, where he specifically gave relief to underprivileged communities, particularly those that were undocumented workers who didn't have access to healthcare. So I think there's a lot we can learn from him.
I think that's so great. And giving back is such an important thing, I know, to all of us too here at Workday, and such an important part of getting out into your community and spreading that as well. And if you're lucky, sharing that with other people. Katherine, which actual rock star do you think the business world could take some cues from?
So I like a quote from Beyonce, which says, if everything was perfect, you would never learn and you would never grow. And I think that for me really is something that, we can all change up our daily routine. We can all learn new things. We can all be more efficient. And I think whatever stage we're at in our career, whether we're leading teams, part of a team, driving something forward, knowing that there's something we can always learn, a way in which we can always grow, a different way in which we can change something up. I think, that all gives us the opportunity to transform the way we do business for the better.
She's a great example. For those who haven't heard it or seen it, she just came out with a new country album. And so talk about entering a new genre, learning new things, growing. So it's a great example herself in action. Katie, what about you?
Yeah, so I'd say in honor of the 2024 summer tour soon kicking off, as well as being an inductee nominee for the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, I'm going to say Dave Matthews. Reason being, he's consistent, he's reliable, he's always going to tour in the summer, so you can count on that as a fun outing with friends and family. He's going to play a great show. He puts his fans at the center of the set list. You're going to hear what you want, especially if you go over a couple of the nights that he usually does his shows in certain cities. And he also lets his band jam. I mean, some of his best songs are the ones where they go for 15, 20 minutes and he's not even singing. He's going back and letting, the different instruments do their work. So Dave Matthews is my response on this one.
You're making me get very excited for spring. We're all ready to get out of winter and go to some summer concerts. Meredith, you want to take us home?
Yeah. Mine's from the other AI, not artificial intelligence, but American Idol. It's Katy Perry. I just think she's amazing. I love to watch how she lifts others up. She inspires young men and women, and she leads people to success, much like some of the conversations we've heard here today. So she would be mine. It doesn't hurt that she's absolutely stunningly gorgeous as well. So Katy Perry is my answer, hands down.
Love it. Well, she brings the energy always like that, right? Which we could all take in business, is to bring the energy, the optimism. Everybody else gets that from you.
Yeah, I have to say then, just a quick piggyback. I tried to go the Rockstar route with Dave Matthews, but have to give a shout out to Taylor Swift as well, since we brought up Katy Perry. Could go on and on that too.
Well, I think you won't be alone in that, Katie. So we'll let the viewers maybe comment in the thread if they're Swifties. So, well, thank you all so much for your insights. We mentioned fun many times, but to be honest, I've had so much fun during this conversation. Learned a lot from all of you, and hope not only that the four of you did as well, but that our viewers do as well. That we take some of this into not only our day-to-day business professionally in our roles, but personally, and become the rock stars that we want to be, continue to be the rock stars we want to be, whatever that might be. But I thank you to all the rock stars out there and our viewers today. And really, one question we want to leave you all with that we're going to ask you to comment in the thread after you've seen this is, do you look up to a total rock star at work? I know we all touched on a few here, expressed some gratitude and really named some of those rock stars, but shout them out in the comments and follow the Workday page to be notified on the next Workday Chats coming up. So hope you have a rocking Workday, and thank you again.